Hello everybody, my name is Hammock. Today I'd like to talk about an interesting topic and something that I've got from playing like a lot of competitive TF2 that I feel like is very important for, specifically for people who play competitive Overwatch. And I guess any competitive game, but specifically it's a problem that I've seen in Overwatch. And that is communication. Specifically having like perfect calls, like locations, callouts for strategies, and things that are just clean for the comms. Because I guess ladder isn't a very good like way to see how good the communication is. Like you have to just see in fixed teams. I've seen I've seen a bit of like 2 teams, 1.5 I guess. I've done observing for a team. I've seen how they communicate and how they play, and I've done some trials for like other teams. By the way, I'm plat. I haven't really played too much comp. It's hard to play a lot of comp when a lot of people are just rude all the time, so take my experience in Overwatch competitive with a grain of salt, but I did play a lot of competitive TF2 and UGC Platinum and ETF12 Premiership. So the idea is that a lot of comms aren't really clean. There's a lot of people calling out just vague ideas of where things are, like if there's a place to decide the area, it's a flank. If there's a place where there's a big health pack, it's just called a mega. Or, like, there's just point and there's house, and there's just these really vague comms which a lot of people don't know, and, like, if you're playing ladder, people don't even have specific comms for certain places, unless, I guess, you're playing constantly top 500, in which you're probably going to be playing with people with fixed team experience. So there's not very good, like, callouts for certain places in just the general play, and generally the comms revert either to people not talking or people just yelling the name of the hero they need to focus fire, which works but can be kind of bad if you want to make your communication as optimal as possible. So what I propose is an idea that I had initially when playing in Highlander, which is building mnemonic devices. And a mnemonic device is a way of remembering something. You would probably, if you did like basic geography, or maybe you did scouts when you were a kid, you'd probably learn like the mnemonic device of the compass, like the north, east, south, west, like going clockwise around the compass. Like that, a mnemonic device for that could be never eat shredded wheat, or the colloquialism of your area. That's one I particularly knew. And that's a mnemonic device. It's just a way of remembering something. And using that, we can use it to refine terms and certain, like, either locations on the map, certain strategies, or certain things that people need to be aware of without having to, like, have the time to articulate them. We can just, like, go over them in a fixed team discussion, like post-talk, pre-talk, map talks, and scrims, drill them into the team, and then use them to make very refined and clear communications. So the idea of that is, like, say, for example, back in TF2, in Highlander, we played a lot of CP Steel, in which if you knew the map, you knew it's kind of infamous for being a bad map, and a bad map for communication. It's a very good map for Highlander, it's very interesting, but it's definitely a way, if you're a new team, to figure out if you've got your communication on point, because there's so many different doorways, there's so many different places, that if someone says, spy on the flank, it's like, good job, mate, the whole map is a fucking flank. So that isn't as much of an issue in Overwatch because the maps are a little bit more streamlined, a lot more polished, very well made. But there are still some maps, like kind of like Rialto, kind of a bit with Blizzard World on like Second Point, like just little like nooks and crannies and little doorways where if you were to just call out to your team, there's a tracer on flank. Like, it's very, you're obfuscating a lot of information by just having like too many places on the map that could be considered flank. Like, you want to be able to label certain places with distinctive props and such, which is kind of the thing that I dislike about some of the Overwatch maps, is that a lot of places look very similar. Like, if there's 2 rooms and one room has a potted plant, you could call that room plant. But a lot of places do look very similar. Like in Nepal, in, which one is it? Nepal Village, the little up top area by the cliff has got like where Genji is sort of like stayed with his like little swords and stuff. You could probably call that place like dojo, or like bedroom or something like that. Like just like adding all these like little props around the map makes the like core distinctive, so that it's easier to like come to mind. And that's like a mnemonic device. The other the other one is for specific strats. So for example, if you knew the enemy team was running Winston, D.Va, Lucio, Zen, Tracer, Genji, or probably not even Lucio, probably Mercy, then people will just call dive, and everyone will know, oh, it's dive, or like full dive. Usually if people say dive, it's probably like dive tanks, but you can just say full dive. Or if you see the triple support, triple tank, most people probably won't want to yell triple support, triple tank, because that's a mouthful. Instead, most people just say goats, because that's the team that like made that strat popular. So those can work as mnemonic devices. And I wouldn't be surprised if T3, T2, maybe even T1 Overwatch League teams do like strats like this, where if you have a specific idea for a strat or a team comp or a location that you need to look out for, just make a mnemonic device for it. So I'm just thinking of like some random scenario that's probably not going to occur. Like, say you've got a team comp that's Murderable Bastion. Like, you've got a bunch of people protecting, like, basically a pirate ship, but fixed, like, static. If you've got, like, your strat basically designed about protecting Bastion, and you want to hold an area, the only, like, real risk and rogue element that you could look out for is a Sombra coming in and hacking the Bastion, and that's, like, gonna completely ruin the hold. So, instead of just, like, as soon as the Sombra appear, having the really long call of, Sombra on our Bastion, you can, like, you can reduce that and build a mnemonic device out of it. And what I recommend is making a short word, preferably 2 or 3 syllables, that's very distinctive and very separate from other words that are going to be used in the calls, and also has a good cadence. So for example, Weasel. You're never going to hear, well, unless I guess if someone is called Weasel in the game, you're never going to hear someone yell Weasel in Overwatch comps, which is why it works. So it sounds stupid. I imagine there's going to be people proposing this to their team and they're going to be called an idiot. But it sounds so distinctive that if you just keep drilling it in scrims and being like, guys, Sombra on our Bastion hacking him, Weasel. Sombra hacking our Bastion, Weasel. And then, when the game happens, if someone yells Weasel, everyone knows that's what it means. Now, you can do that with other strats. You can do that for example, say you're playing Dorado defense, you've got Orisa, Roadhog, D.Va to like hold the point, because you want to go for like picks, but you still want the Orisa D.Va, and you've got your flex heal switching to Roadhog. Like when you lose that point and you want to switch people, maybe you want to switch back to dive tanks and then switch back to your flex heal to like Zen or perhaps even Brigida. Instead of having your shot caller or your main caller like say that on the comms and trying to micro each switch, you can just like, reduce it into a mnemonic device. So I don't know, you could make up a random word. You could just call the mnemonic device Burger King or something like that. By the way, not sponsored by Burger King. But something like that has a different cadence or something that you just won't hear in like in the comms. So you can say it, and then everyone immediately knows what to do, and there doesn't need to be any further discussion in the comms after that, and you can leave the comms clean for important things like calling a Widow and stuff like that. And that's another thing. You can also use it to call things like a Widow grapple jumping, like people can just say grapple and stuff like that. Or if you want to communicate that you want to dive someone, and that for example, the Winston hasn't got a leap, you could just change that into a different thing, like I don't know, you could just call it fucking chimp. Just say chimp when he hasn't got a leap. Like, yeah, that can work. Just make all these like specific calls. Problem is, the more you make, the more you have to like practice it. So I recommend not having too many, having it for mainly like distinctive things that the team should be aware about, or certain like problems that the team has. Like maybe the team has a really big problem dealing with Pharah or dealing with Hanzo, so you want to like have a mnemonic device specifically for when a Pharah does the thing that they're afraid of. Like that's a very cool thing to do. Now, obviously this can work for a bunch of different things. I wouldn't be surprised if this was already used in certain ways in coaching in T2 or T1 teams, but for teams that are getting into T3 like Overwatch Open, or just want to practice fixed team and get better at the game, I highly recommend doing stuff like this to improve your communication skills, clean out the comms, and obviously you don't want to be that team that's just going Winston, D.Va, Winston. Like you want to have some clarity to it, and you want to improve your communication as well as your overall playing ability. So hopefully you found this useful. Yeah, thank you for watching.